When you don't have a good kick for your song, it can essentially feel a bit weak and also without energy in the low end. So what makes a kick a good fit for your song? In today's video, we're going to explore a couple of aspects that make a good kick and also answer a few questions like, what is the best key of your song? Should you compress or saturate your kick or even just EQ it? Or should you just create your own kicks or should you just sample it? But before we begin, let me know over here in the comments, do you create your kicks? Answer yes if you create them or no if you just sample them, or just answer with something else if you do something else with your kick. One important mention over here, this tutorial is not going to be for techno or big room, which has different kicks. So this is mainly going to be for melodic house, melodic techno, organic house, progressive house. But now let's get down to business and let's get started with this tutorial. Let's go. Finding the best kick of your song is one of the most important tasks of your low end. And essentially, if you get this right, you can essentially ruin the low end balance and also the energy, which can make your low end sound weak. For example, listen to this song over here by Sultan and Ned Shepard and listen how rich the low end is, especially because of how big the kick is. And if we isolate this kick, it sounds like this. And this kick is a really good example of a good kick because it has two of the most important components of the kicks. It has a really prominent low end, as you can listen over here. And it also has a really prominent click, as you can listen over here. And combined, they sound like this. Now, the click brings a lot of high-end presence to your sound, and the low end brings a lot of body to your kick. And listen how it would sound if you didn't have this click in your kick, for example. You have a lot of presence in the low end, but not a lot of presence in the high end. And listen how it would sound like if you had the click, but not the low end. It sounds weak, right? And this is just to show you how important it is to find the perfect kick for your song. But the first question already arises, which is, should you find the perfect kick or should you make the perfect kick? Should you make your own kick or should you sample your kick? A lot of my students ask this question and the answer is, it depends. I prefer sampling kicks because synthesizing kick can be really hard. But if you still want to go in the synthesizing route, you can use something like Punchbox, as you can see in the screen. But you can see that it's a tad complicating to make a kick that you like, and it requires a lot of processing as well. There's also Kick 2, as you can see, but I feel that it's a bit too complicated, and there's also Big Kick, which I feel it's a bit too simple, so that's why I prefer Punchbox. But to be honest, my preferred method is just sampling kicks from tracks that I like. And you might ask me, but how do you do it? Well, essentially, you can see this video over here in which I show the top 3 methods that I use to extract kicks from tracks. And you can also ask me, but why sampling from tracks that you like instead of just going in sample packs? Well, instead of going through this, which you're probably familiar with and it's really tiring, I just go to a kick that I really like, that I've listened on my speaker, that I've listened in my car, and that I know that works. And this saves me time and gets me directly to the point. And can I tell you a little secret? I only use 4 kicks in all my songs, and the last 3 songs that I've released use the same kick. So don't feel that you always need to change your kicks in your songs. But if you still don't have your top 4 kicks, how do you find the best sample? Well, you can start by getting our sample pack, which features 25 kicks that I've done and tested in melodic house, organic house, and also progressive house songs, and they're good to go and ready to be used. So go get it over here in the description below. But even then, you have to understand what kind of kick are you looking for. Are you looking for a longer kick, a more aggressive kick, or a softer and chiller kick? And that is something that you can look for in reference tracks as well. For example, if you want to get a kick that sounds like Ben Bomer's Father Ocean remix, as you can listen over here. Well, we can see that it has a prominent attack and a prominent low end, but it's not a long kick. So now we're going to compare to 3 kicks that I have and ripped from other tracks as well. As you can see it over here, this is from And Me, this is from Volunteer, and this is from Lane 8. And just by looking at these kicks, I can see that number 2 fits a bit better because it's not so lengthy. And number 3 and number 1 have a bit more of a tail, as you can listen over here. Number 2 and number 3. But it doesn't matter how it sounds in isolation or also how it looks compared to the reference track if you don't use it and test it in context with your song. So now let's listen to kick number 1. It has a bit too much attack. Now listen to kick number 2. which sounds a bit better to me. And now if we listen to kick number 3, it's a bit too boxy, and I still prefer number 2, and there might be a few reasons for that, which takes us to the next part in this video. Well, a really important aspect of your kick is the length of your kick, and here's something that bigger is not always better. What matters over here is that the kick that you're after fits the genre that you're producing, and looking at a reference track, as we've just done, helps a lot because we can understand if we have to go for a softer or for a more aggressive kick. For example, softer kicks tend to be used for softer genres, like melodic house and organic house, and Ben Bomer, for example, is a guy that normally uses softer kicks in his songs, as you can listen over here again in Father Ocean. But if you're going for something a bit more aggressive, then the body of your kick and the transient of your kick are going to be really important, and the more aggressive the better. And if you listen, for example, to Tin Liquor's song called Hypnotize, you're going to notice that the kick is a bit more intense than Ben Bomer's track. Could you notice the difference? If not, just look over here in Ableton and let's see the difference between these two kicks. You can see that Ben Bomer's kicks ends over here, while Tin Liquor goes a little bit longer. And not only this, but Tin Liquor's kick has a lot more body than Ben Bomer, as you can listen again. Can you notice a little bit more knock and hypnotize kick? One thing that I always recommend though is that your kick is not smaller than 1/16 of a bar, which essentially would make the kick too short and eventually powerless, and also not longer than 1/8, which essentially could make your kick a bit too long and also invading the space of the sub. So that's my rule of thumb, but with every rule we always have exceptions, so don't take it too seriously. And if you have a kick that you like but it's a bit too long, you can always shape it with a shaper box or an LFO2 and essentially just shape it the way that you like. But what about key? Does the key matter to your kick? Yes or no? Let me know over here in the comments below, and let's go to the next point in this video. Well, if you're still doubting where to put the note of your kick in your track, let's listen to some reference tracks and see what they're doing in their own tracks. For example, let's listen to Father Ocean by Ben Bomer with the Spectrum to understand where are they placing the kick over there. You can see that the kick is in A, and if we look at the scale of Father Ocean, which is in D major, we have the A, so essentially we're fine. But now let's listen to Hypnotize by Tin Liquor. The kick is in G, and the scale of the song is E flat minor. But wait a minute, do we have G in E flat minor? And the answer is no. So the first thing that you can take from this is that you don't even need to be in the same scale of your track. Think about a band in a show. Do they tune the kick for every song that they play? And the answer is no. The second thing is that you don't need to place your kick at the exact same note of the key of your track, because that could cause you some problems. For example, let's say that your song is in D. That would be a problem because it would not be the bass tone for the kick. And then you might ask me, but Leo, what are the best tones for the kicks? Well, personally, I like kicks that are within F sharp, G, G sharp, and A. And that's essentially the range that I normally like to use. To be honest, my kicks are always within G sharp or G, and that's about it. But I've also seen tracks that use kicks that are in E and also F, so you're good to go also in these two notes. But I wouldn't personally use kicks that are below E and also above A, because that would feel too low and that would feel too high. So I would personally avoid these notes over there. Now, you found the perfect kick, but there are still some things that are bothering you with this kick. So what should you do about this? And let's get started with EQ. Well, my preferred method when I have to tweak the kicks is by using EQ, and that means that I avoid at all costs using compression, saturation, and also transient shaping. And you might ask me why. Well, these three tools can sometimes complicate your kick even more, and using an EQ, when you know properly the 4 EQ bands of your kick, it can be a lot easier to achieve what you want to achieve and push what you want to push. For example, if we listen to this kick by Sultan and Shepard, it sounds like this. But if we pick the 4 EQ zones, we have the click, which is essentially 2000 Hertz and beyond. And we have the knock, which is from 150 to 2000-ish. Then we have the body, which is from 80 Hertz to 150. And the sub, which is from below 80 Hertz-ish. And you can see these on the screen, the sub, the body, the knock, and the click, and how important they are in the song. But now let's say that we want to pick this kick and make it sound a bit more like Hypnotized by Tin Liquor. Well, the first thing that you have to do is try to understand what is wrong with the kick that you have at the moment. So let's listen to it while looking at a spectrum. You can see how loud the sub portion of it is. So now let's listen to Hypnotized. Can you see that this sub portion is a lot quieter? So let's start by EQing this sub portion out a little bit. We're gonna go to the exact frequency, which is 48. So 48, we're gonna dip it by, I don't know, 9 dB. Let's go specifically on this frequency. Maybe a bit less. Now let's compare it. It sounds a lot closer already. So instead of going for a compressor or saturator, just start with an EQ. But why not use compression for this, as I said before? I never really understood why some producers compress their kicks in electronic music, because essentially the kicks are all the same. I do understand where people are compressing their kicks in analog drums, because the kicks are different over there, as you can listen over here. As you can see over here below in the white spots, you can see that the kicks have different levels. So use compression to level them up and essentially make them sound at the same level. But when you're talking about an electronic music kick, they're all essentially the same, as you can see it over here. So there's no real reason to compress the kick. And even if you want to compress the kick, as you can listen over here, can you see how we changed the tonality a little bit of the kick? The kick has now a little bit more attack and a little bit less low end. And if you look at the final result, we actually decreased the low end while keeping the attack the same. So if it's a tonality change, why not just do it with the EQ? And you might say to me, Leo, but I want to bring some new frequencies into the kick. So why not just use saturation for that? And that takes us to our next point in this video. I normally use EQs when I want to push frequencies that are already there. But when I want to add new frequencies, I then go to saturation or distortion. For example, listen to our kick from Sultan and Shepard and listen to how they sound like. Now let's add a little bit of saturation over here. Can you see how they added a little bit of character into the kick? And that can be really useful, especially for more aggressive genres. But when you're going for softer genres that require a softer kick, saturation can be a shot in your foot, because it can essentially bring frequencies that shouldn't be there in your kick in the first place. And that is exactly why I love sampling my kicks, because I don't have to think about saturation, compression, or EQ. I just find a kick that I love from the beginning and just use it right away, normally without any processing. And if you want to learn how you can start extracting kicks from tracks that you like, you can see this video over here. And I'm sure that you're gonna start using better kicks from tracks that you love this way. I hope that you liked the video, and I hope to see you in the next week. Ciao. Don't forget to click it.